everyone. Thank you so much. That was beautiful. It was beautiful. So this is a question of responsibility that I've been thinking about for some time. Ever since we elected our president in 2016. I won't let it go until we let it go. We will be doing it together if it is necessary. And if we decide it's not necessary, we will keep the lessons that we are learning. We will keep on learning the lessons we are learning. So, of course, I started by looking this up on the internet. A question of responsibility. Who's responsible? Who's to blame? I know I had a part in it. And so I have a part in everything. I have a part in everything around me. I have a part in everything I am creating as I'm living my life. We are infinitely creative. So while exploring the internet, I found 7 signs that tell you if you are taking responsibility. And I thought, well, these are not too spiritual, but they are really necessary to move on into a more spiritual sense of responsibility. So the first one is you know who you want to be and you find a clear purpose. So that has me stumbling over the first one. Sometimes I don't know who I want to be, or sometimes I want to be something that I've never been, just to explore that. And number 2 is you know what you want, and it's possible to make decisions. And sometimes I can't always make decisions, but you know what I do about decisions? I make a decision no matter what, no matter if it's clear or not clear that that's the right decision. Because I know that it's always the right decision. Whatever decision I'm making is going to place me forward so that I can make another decision, right? It's not possible to do it wrong, and it's not possible to get it finished. So says Esther Hicks, Abraham. And number 3, I think it's taken me years. You are not blaming others. Not blaming others, not blaming others, not blaming anybody for anything. Imagine that. And we have to imagine that because it's harder to grasp. It's harder to grasp. You're not blaming yourself. Isn't it all my fault? I mean, no, it's not. You are honest with yourself. You gave up making excuses long ago. You can understand why I'm still working on these first 7 concepts before even we get to the spiritual stuff. It's important to be aware of when we are making excuses and to immediately forgive ourselves and understand that everything changes anyway. But if we're aware of our excuses, we're a little bit more apt to be honest with ourselves. So number 6 is you recognize how you benefit from the status quo. And I might add, even if it is difficult. I was our son is going to come visit this afternoon, and I found myself this morning, before I was getting ready, I found myself putting away things, and I think to myself, why do I still have this? but we gather around us the things that make us feel comfortable. And we keep them because they make us feel comfortable. But we're living out on the edge. We're living out on the edge. So the edge of awareness, the edge of thought. We are thinking things that people usually don't think in spiritual churches. We are thinking, we are grasping, we are understanding, we are accepting, and we are forgiving all that we don't understand and all that we are reaching for. And all of those things are changing within us as divine energy flows through us. But one of the most important ones is the last one. But they're all important. You have choices. And we are exercising our choices day after day, moment to moment. We're exercising our choices. And when something goes wrong, as it will go wrong, we make another choice. We change our choices. So now we're going to go into a deeper exploration, into a mystical understanding that is not clear, always is not clear. But think about it, 'cause I've been thinking about this for a long time, and there at some level, at some place, I know there is absolutely some truth here. We are, each of us, responsible for everything. And the everything I'm thinking about is not the everything that I attract to myself. It's the everything that you attract to yourself. I'm responsible to you. I'm responsible to you. You are responsible to me. Nobody understands this. No. But it's an idea that I've been working on for quite a while, and there must be some truth to it. So let me tell you what happens when I remember that I'm responsible for everything. I'm responsible for what happens on this earth. I'm responsible for what happens to the people, and I'm responsible for the good parts of it, and I'm responsible for the bad parts of it. The beauty that is being created and the beauty that is being destroyed. I'm responsible. I'm responsible for injustice. But there's part of us that still says, not me, not me. But think about what happens when we take spiritual responsibility. And this is the work for the mystic in us. And every one of us has one of those that is part of us, that is a large part of us. A sense of oneness. This is what happens when we entertain the possibility that we're responsible for all of it. A sense of oneness. And awareness of presence that you have wherever you go, whatever you're doing, whatever you're thinking. A sense of oneness. And a sense of awareness of presence. I guess I should say this is true for myself, I get a sense of unity with all beings and unity with all creatures and with all of life and all of that is not life too. When I was a little girl, I used to have these awareness. I can remember now, I would be walking in the field and have the sense that all of this belonged to me. And yet, of course, none of it belonged to me. It belonged to everyone. And I would have this sense of oneness with everything. And that was a very powerful experience, to have a sense of oneness with everything. At that time, I never thought about responsibility. And the other thing that you begin to identify with is that there is no separation. There's no separation between us. We are one. We are one. And I'm not the only one who's said that so far this morning. A sense of peace. There's a sense of peace, a sense of understanding, a sense of quiet, a sense of acceptance of things that we don't know are true. A sense of finding out things, discovering and rediscovering things that we never knew were true. A sense of power. A sense of the necessity of shining your light, no matter how dim you deem it to be, no matter how difficult it seems to be to shine your light, no matter how angry or how desperate or how demoralized you feel. A sense of shining your light, no matter what. A sense of power and peaceful ability to respond to this insanity. Just respond kindly to insanity. In this sense, you are no longer a victim, but you cannot not be a victim unless you take responsibility. I can be present with all of my life, whether I like my life or not. Be present with yourself. So, I used a couple of books, Friendship with God. So I'll read a paragraph, couple of little bits. There's only one message that can change the course of human history forever, end the torture and bring you back to God. That message is, we are all one. From this emerges a new message of total responsibility. See, I knew I wasn't the only one thinking these things. Telling you that you are totally responsible for what you are choosing, and that you are choosing it all together. We are all choosing all of it all together. And the only way to change your choices is to change them all together. You will not end the torture of yourselves so long as you imagine yourselves to be merely torturing another. You will only end the torture when you are clear that you are, in fact, torturing yourself. And where there is no separation between us, yes, I am torturing myself. And I need to stop. And this is how I do it, by writing and talking and truly. So Neil Donald Walsh talks about total responsibility. He talks about recognizing that what we do together, we do to ourselves. And I believe that's where compassion comes from, because we can understand the difficulty, the sadness, the regret in other people, because we are understanding that it is also in ourselves. We can also see it in ourselves. How we treat the ones closest to us, we treat all of us. And what we think about in the next moments is how we are creating ourselves and our lives far in the future. And as much as we are willing to be present and choose and enjoy the little things around us, we will also be able to enjoy the big things that happen to us. And so that brings me to the next book. And this book is about regaining ourselves in the presence of God and in the presence of ourselves and each other in the moment. In the moment, not in the past and not in the future. So I know it takes courage to say there's only one of us. But if we can say it and mean it and know it, things change for us. We stop the struggle in a very profound way. It helps us stop struggling. We stop struggling. So one thing that I do that has brought me peace in my life is, and it surprised me a few times, is when I'm getting into an argument with my favorite companion there. I've never told him this, so it might be a surprise to him. So I'm sitting there and I'm feeling, "Arr!" And I say, okay, I'm responsible for all of this. I'm responsible. And so what happens is peace comes. And peace comes to both of us. It's unique and interesting all the time. And it's not always the same, of course, but the first time it happened, I was quite amazed. But it was very profound, and it was absolute. So Eckhart Tolle in The Power of Now, A Guide to Spiritual Enlightenment. Very powerful book because he talks about the different ways in which we suffer in our lives and how we can change that suffering by learning to become present. And learning to separate who we really are from the mind that thinks it knows exactly who we are. And our mind thinks we know exactly who is for us, and the mind thinks it knows exactly who is against us. But that's not the whole picture. The mind is lovely, and it's a lovely tool, but it's only our tool. And it's our hearts that need to guide us, as we have heard before I started to speak. Our hearts are that part of us that needs to be guiding us. And what's so powerful about this book? He talks about something I've been thinking about for a long time, and every time I start thinking about something important, I realize it's not me that started this. So he talks about the witness. When Barbara Brodsky was here one time, she said, "That which is observing the pain, that part of me that's observing the pain is not in pain." So, Eckhart Tolle recognizes the part of me that is watching this person live this life and explore all kinds of possibilities is not the one observing. So there is the one of us that's living, and there is one of us that's observing. So he's talking about the different ways in which we can observe that which comes into our lives and then out and back into our lives and then out of our lives. So he talks about the important thing being to increase our presence, our deeper self behind every thought. Become aware of your thinking, aware of your struggle. Be aware of your struggle. Watch yourself struggle. and you will regain the power that is yours to make a different choice if you want to make a different choice. Many of us do not, in fact, want to make a different choice because we are gleefully, I might add, using every choice we make to learn lessons, to enrich our lives, and to explore the infinite possibilities that are available to us because we are able to make choices. We have the power. And we are those angels that we so often fail to recognize as part of ourselves. As we watch and reflect on our thoughts, feelings, and actions, the more we realize this is not who I really am. I am the divine self. I am the divine self that is so much more than anything I am imagining. I am available, I am receptive to the love that is behind all gifts given by the Infinite One, given by our source, given by God. And so it's a good idea to find ways to access that divine part of ourselves, that presence within ourselves. Let me read a couple of things from this book. The eternal present is the space within which your whole life unfolds. So imagine that you are in fact living now in your eternal present. The one factor that remains constant, life is now. There was never a time when your life was not now, nor will there ever be. The now is the only point that can take you beyond the limited confines of the mind. It is your only point of access into the timeless and formless realm of being, which is you. Silence is a carrier of presence. Be aware of the silence between and underneath your words. Be aware of the gaps. To listen to the silence wherever you are. There is a direct way of becoming present. There is an easy and direct way of becoming present. Even if there is noise, there is always silence underneath and in between the sounds. Listening to the silence immediately causes stillness inside you, and that's where you access the infinite. And I think that's all I have to say. Now I really want to hear from you.